Hello and welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always is co-host Tate Mathews. Tate, it's a dark and dreary day in here, and I'm still a little bit in mourning. Independence falls in the state 5A championship football game, 45-35. We'll talk about that in just a second, but before we get into that, let's talk about a bright spot that happened this weekend. The Brentwood boys cross-country team traveled to Oregon in the national championships, finishes third overall. Brody Hasty finishes third on himself. Now, to think about that, he's just a junior. He's going to have another shot at this. Man, what a unbelievable job this team has done this year.
Yep, they are. There's something to be proud of. It's something they've worked very hard for, and you can tell they're a tight group. So that's big, man. You go all the way out there, third in the country. He's third in the country. And then I believe I saw Dr. Vaden is on Twitter now, and I saw where – is it Annika Sleenhoff?
Annika Sleenhoff,
yes. 19th, right?
That's correct. She finished in the top 20. We had two on the podium with Brody and one of the Vroom boys. Now, unfortunately, some of these kids are going to move on. Both Vroom boys going to Belmont to participate on their cross-country team. This team was extremely, very, very special. And I want to put this in perspective. The girl that won the national championship ran this in under 16 minutes. I mean, that to me is just mind-blowing. Right. The boys finished obviously in 15 and some change. It's less than 5 minutes per mile. And that is just, I mean, these guys are machines in what they can do. But congratulations to the Brentwood cross-country group. Brody Hasty once again finishes third in national championships. All right, Independence travels to Cookeville, 5A state championship game. Coach Blake and crew comes in riding a 29-game winning streak. They needed to get one more for the back-to-back state championships and for the 30-game winning streak to continue on. They're leading 35-7, Tate, with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the first half. To think, you got to go for it. I don't blame him in this call. You got to get the ball down the field. Some people may say maybe a little gritty or whatever, but you got to try to get this touchdown in before halftime because why? Why is it important?
Because momentum, I would think, would be the number one thing.
Momentum and a running clock.
Yeah,
you get a running clock going into halftime, this thing is over. They can't stop the clock. And one of Brandon Hines' picks happens at this point in time. Farragut goes down with less than a minute to go and scores the touchdown to make it 35-14 at half. Independence comes back out, has to kick off to Farragut. They go right down the field, score again, 35-21, and then the whole momentum shifts to the Farragut Admirals.
Yeah, it did. And you look at this thing, and there were so many plays where it really was one play. Could have changed the whole thing. So you look at the interception. I believe it was about a minute left in the half. And then they go down and they catch the touchdown pass with time expiring in the second half to score the 14 points. So it just – it was one of those things where you hate to see it meant to be, but maybe it was. I mean, there were so many things that if you take one play different, it's a different outcome. And but the number one thing is this: Farragut's a good football team. I mean, they had one loss all year long. It was earlier in the year against Oak Ridge, and and now I know why. I thought this would be a mismatch athletically, and it wasn't. I mean, I still think Independence is a better team. I think if they played again, does Independence win? Yes, without a doubt. But this was not a bad football. They had some good players. That Cooper Harden was a good player, the quarterback Adam Fulton. So you're right. It was if they convert that, don't get that interception, or even if they don't convert it and they turn around and punt it, it's a different ball game. But it wasn't. And that thing just – you kept thinking, okay, they're going to get it turned back on because everything was clicking so well in the first half. I mean, they're up by 28 points in the second quarter. In the state championship game, we're sitting there thinking, hey, this thing, the starter's going to be over on the sideline eating popcorn in the fourth quarter. But it just wasn't the way it was. It turned, and credit to Farragut. I mean, as a coach, you were one, and there's a lot of them out there that watch this. You always preach play 4 quarters, right? I mean, if ever there was an example of it, that was this. Farragut never gave up and kept plugging away, and hats off to them.
Well, you hit it right on the head. They were a very good, solid football team. Matter of fact, they remind me almost a carbon copy of Brentwood.
That's right.
Size-wise, they're not overrun with a whole lot of athletes, but these kids are extremely athletic, very big. The running back, the quarterback, I mean, they were built like tanks, both of them over 200 pounds.
Right.
Could pound and ground 4 yards at a time, 5 yards at a time. get past the line, secondary, that second level linebackers having to make plays, and even carrying those guys even deeper on some of those on runs they had. And then you have, they have a 6'6", 6'7" tight end that can catch the ball and move.
He's a nice player. He looked a lot like LeBrecht.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they are a Williamson County looking school.
I'm telling you, it was almost a carbon copy. And then you have the 6'2", 6'3", super athletic wide receiver that made a couple of great plays for him as well. And they really, really wore down and grinded on Indy as the game progressed, particularly when the defense, they kept their defense out there for so long, and then Independence being fast, regardless if they scored, regardless if it was an interception, they're going to score fast.
That's right.
Defense had to come back out. And here we go, ground and pound again. And, let's talk about for a minute Brandon Hines. What a year he's had.
Yes.
A lot of people could look at this game and put all the entire loss squarely on Brandon Hines' shoulders, and I think that's a little bit unfair. Brandon Hines.
It's a lot on. It's
completely
it's
unfair.
Incorrect, is what it is.
Now Brandon Hines finishes the game 327 yards, 2 touchdowns, 23 of 40, with a rushing touchdown. He did have 6 interceptions, 5 in the second half. A lot of that people will say, well, that's the reason he lost the game. But Brandon Hines came in to this year having to fill in the role and the shoes that were pretty large from last year in the quarterback position, and still had 3,571 yards, 40 touchdowns, on the year, 57% on the year. I mean, he superseded what happened last year as far as I think he was 1 touchdown shy of what Bunch had last year, but as far as overall yards, had more than Bunch. Now, Bunch did miss a couple games due to injury, but, I mean, we're not talking about somebody that just came in here and just we had to Band-Aid this thing together.
Right.
Hines had a tremendous year. I'm going to tell you something else about this young man. His character after the game is what, to me, is shines. Butch Jones, your guy, UT, talks about being champions of life.
No.
Okay, so this guy, after a defeat, who you could easily just say, you're the reason we lost. He takes it upon himself to say, I could have played better. Yeah, I'm going to take the loss. He answers every question from all these guys, talking about, what a tremendous year it was and playing with his brothers and going out there and how sorry he was for the performance that he had. It's the worst performance of the year for him, and it happened to come in the state championship game. But he stood up, he acted professional with it, and could have easily just left, went to the locker room, and didn't want anybody to see him. But I have to give a shout out to Brandon Hines and the poise and character that he showed during this performance.
Yeah, and that did not go unnoticed. A lot of people have been talking about that. He's a quality guy. First thing they were 14-0 going into that game. That means he's guided this team to 14 wins as the starting quarterback. They replaced every skill player on the offense from last year. Scurry and Sheffield are sophomores. They got better as the year went on. We were talking about that pregame. It's amazing how much better Scurry was from week 2 to week 15, week 16. So I think that what the guy did was unbelievable. So here's the bottom line. They wouldn't have even been in that game if he's not there, because he did a great job this year as the quarterback, and so he's got nothing to be ashamed of. He played great in the first half. Second half, it was one of those things where they started pressing, and not all those were his fault. You know what I'm saying? And if the game was different, if, like you said, if it had been a running clock, he would have been the one who guided him to 42 points in the first half of a state championship game, and it would have been different. So it's a team thing, and he knows that, but he's being a leader. That's another thing. Hey, when you're the quarterback, you get the praise and you get the criticism.
That's right.
And for a 17-year, I'm assuming he's 17, for a 17-year-old to take that, man, that guy, you don't have to worry about him in life. It's kind of like the Nate Johnson thing last year. You saw how he responded and reacted to the Mr. Football.
A whole lot better than I did.
That's right, right. And he's 17, and you're whatever you are. You act like you're 17. But same thing. You can't say enough about it. So, and hey, man, I know Coach Blade would take this too. He'd go to battle with that kid any day of the week. So you're right. Great year. Hey, we've talked a lot about this. You go back and look. This is something that I like to watch. You look at all the great head coaches, the great teams in Tennessee high school football history. Okay, there's a lot of multiple state championship teams, 2 in a row, 3 in a row, Maryville 4 in a row, right? You don't find very many that went 30-0. Brentwood Academy did it in the mid-90s. Maryville's done it. And I don't know of anybody else.
I know that you had
Cleveland.
Right.
Cleveland under Coach Monroe. Those are the only three I know of. So what does that mean? It's tough to go 30-0. It's back-to-back championships one thing, but to not have one, in 30 games and you're gonna have a setback. It just happened in the state championship game. If you look at the previous weeks, they had to fight back. So I don't think this team's got anything to be ashamed of, man.
Well, you hit it right on the head. I mean, there's a lot of people. I know all those kids. I mean, you have leaders on both sides of the ball. You're talking about Hunter Dupree, David Dempke on the defensive side, linebackers that have starred for the last 2 years for those guys. Landon Gidry. I mean, you can't say enough about Landon Gidry, what he brings to the table on both sides of the ball, special teams included. Those guys obviously held their heads high. They took it tough, obviously, because, I mean, you got to think Scurry and Sheffield, they've never lost.
Right.
They've never lost on the varsity level. I want you to think about that. Never have lost. And neither one of them, if they've taken a snap, I'm not for certain, before this year. My question and my concern for those right now is you've got to take this adversity. When I say adversity, they haven't experienced a whole lot of adversity. Now, the last 2 weeks coming into this game, Cane Ridge, Brentwood, had to face adversity, came out of it barely in the Cane Ridge game and showed a lot of poise in that Brentwood game. Take this as motivation into the off season. You're going to go, they're going into the 6A classification. We'll talk about all that in just a few minutes. Take that as motivation in the off season to get yourself better. All three of those guys right there have to be leaders stepping up next year. Scurry, Sheffield, Troy Henderson coming back. Sophomore quarterback will be filling Brandon Hines' shoes. And, that's some big shoes to fill as well.
Right.
And he's a little different looking quarterback. I want to say he's 6'3", pretty big kid, got a big arm. Name escapes me right off the top of my head. But these guys right here are going to be in the mix again. They had a small bump. It happened to be on a big stage. But one loss in 2 years, I'd take that all day.
Oh, without a doubt.
During the 29-game win streak, Tate, 1,208 points scored against the opponent's 390. That's an 818 scoring differential.
Yeah, and a lot of running clocks. And so that just goes to show how dominant they've been. I mean, this has been a heck of a run. There haven't been very many like that. Again, nothing to hang your hat on. 29 in a row. You got a gold ball and a silver ball. I'll take it. Well,
you're right. And we talked a little bit last week about how everybody finished. The WCS Sports Conference this year finished at 64-15. That's non-conference. That's not counting the in-conference rivals. It's just 64-15 on non-conference game. Outscored their opponents 2,185 to 1,082. That's a plus 1,117 scoring differential on the WCS Sports Conference this year alone. Unfortunately, we do get runner-up. We take one runner-up. It's not, last year makes all the noise. We win 2 state championships. Right. I don't think that our scoring differential was this high, nor did we have the overall record, but you got to look at it this way. We had all 8 teams in for the first time ever. 7 of the 8 won the first round into the second round. Out of those 7, 5 won into the quarters, 2 into the semis, 1 in the state championship game, and 1 runner-up. In the last 3 years, we've had 2 runner-ups. We've had 2 state championships, and we've had at least 1 rep in the state championship game in the last 3 years.
Something to be very proud of, and they just keep getting better. And now we got Nolensville on the way. They're going to be 4A, is that right?
They're going to be 4A.
I think the plan is to make noise next year. They're definitely going to make noise in 2 years. So, coaching, players, and the school support, we've got the best total package of anybody around. And again, we were up there in Cookeville and visited with a lot of coaches. People taking notice. I mean, it's not flying under the radar.
Well, I'll tell you what. When we come back from break, let's look at next year. Let's try to throw a little crystal ball action out there. We'll look at the schedule. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to WCS Sports Connection. All right, Tate, let's look at 2017. It's never too early to start looking at this. We made some serious predictions last year, and they did come to fruition. Old Sparty getting in, absolutely. Now I'm going to look at something. Let's shift to 2017. We don't have 8 teams. We now have 9. And that's pretty hard to believe right there. We span across 4 classifications after the TWSAA reclassifications came out. So let's talk about it real quick. On the 3A level, Fairview remains on the 3A level. Coach Chris Hughes, after finishing this year, a record for him, 10-0 regular season, finished 11-1, getting beat by Good Pasture in the second round.
Yes, and I think that's, 3A is where Fairview can be successful. I'm glad they stayed there, and Good Pasture had a heck of a team. Here's the deal. I'm sure he'd like to have another shot at them, but CPA and Good Pasture both gone now from 3A, which is usually one of the teams. Now that Good Pasture is back playing good football again, that's one of the teams Fairview's usually going to have to see somewhere around that second round of the playoffs, quarterfinal round. So, I think they can build on what they did last year, and man, I sure would love to see this team get over the hump, get to the semis, maybe even get to, I want to say Cookeville, but there's a good chance we might be talking Clarksville this time next year. We'll find out in January. But anyways, would love to see them make it to the Blue Cross Bowl. That would be so neat for that community.
All right, so let's look at some highlights for Coach Chris Hughes and the Yellow Jackets for next year. And these makes for a very interesting schedule. Most interesting schedule probably in history of Fairview. They open up week 1, of course, with the Battle of 840. Game day will obviously be there. That's always the, how fun that is.
Right.
It will be at Fairview again this year. And then you go to week 10. And they host, for the first time ever, the Ravenwood Raptors. That will make for an interesting matchup. 3A, 6A going at it. I mean, how much fun is that? Hats off to both of those guys. This should be happening. And you'll see as we progress through all classifications, we're sticking together. We're going to play each other. We're going to make great gates for these guys. It makes for interesting storylines.
Yeah, I think it's great. And throw out the fact that it's Ravenwood and another Williamson County team. I'd love to know if they've ever played a 6A team before. I don't think that they have. And I'd love to know how many 3A teams are stepping out and playing a 6A team too. So end of the year.
Now, according to Coach Hughes, he's been trying to schedule Donnie for a long time over at Franklin. I don't know how much truth is to it, but he's got one on the schedule now.
That's right.
So the question is, after this contract is up, home and away, whether he'll schedule them again. But, hey, Coach Hughes and his bunch, they're going to be scrappy. They're going to be out there getting after it. This ought to be a great game, really bragging rights only.
Right.
And, to see what kind of crowd will show up for this game would be interesting. White House Heritage also on the schedule. It's a non-conference game, and then they're in their traditional Stewart County, Waverly, Camden, Sycamore, Harp, Cheatham County region. Best of luck there to see how that goes for those guys. On the 4A side of things, man, it's going to make it interesting. Nolensville, Coach Will Hester, and the Knights will be playing a full schedule this year. As we all know, this year they played a JV schedule. They went 9-1, beating and defeating some very good teams in that schedule. CPA being one of those guys, BA being one of those in that schedule. But it is JV. Everybody's like, hey, it's just JV. They were the best. Number 1, Max Preps came out as the number 1 ranked JV team in the country.
Did Will win JV Coach of the Year?
He did win Coach.
Sweet.
And had the best coaching staff and facilities of any JV team across America.
I love it.
So congratulations to the Knights. On the 4A, they're going to come in the TWSAA in the 4A side of things. I love this. We're like I said, we span across 4 classifications. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm making this prediction. Put it on I'm telling you, deep in the playoffs will the Nolensville Knights go. Not sure they're good enough yet and old enough to win it, but here's the thing. They need to get deep. They need to learn, just like the Ravenwood team that he had beforehand that got beat in the state championship game. That could have been the best thing that ever happened to them, because they came back that next year with the motivation and the mindset, there's no way we're losing this second one. Knights 2 years from now in Cookeville/Clarksville, wherever it is, book it. You heard it here first.
I love it. I love it. Well, I do think you sit there and you look at this. Here's their region: Spring Hill, Lawrence County, Tullahoma, Maplewood, and Marshall County. You got to be in the top 4.
There's 6 teams. 2's going to be outside looking in.
I think they got a good chance to
They're
make the
getting in.
playoffs next year.
They're getting in. I'm telling you right now.
And I'm not going to get on my soapbox right now. We'll do this another show. But look at that now. Maplewood, from Maplewood to Lawrence County. You think we got too many classifications? Enough said.
Yeah, we
Go
need
ahead.
we need to get on that. All right, so we got Fayetteville open up. Let's say their schedule real quick because this will be the first year for them. Going to play open up with Fayetteville at home. Go to a new cross country rival. I think this will be a rival from here on out until the new school is built in 1920. Central High School, which is crazy. We'll have 10 then.
Amazing.
Page at Page, August 25th, week 2. Spring Hill, who's probably going to be favored to win that region, will be at Spring Hill week 3. Here's another good game right here, WCS game. Summit.
I like it.
At home, Lawrence County, and then they play Brentwood. Brentwood is another, that's going to be a tough matchup for Coach Hester. Coach Crawford's going to be loaded to bear next year. I think he might be the favorite in WCS right now. We'll get to that. Tullahoma, Lincoln have the bye week. Maplewood, Marshall to round off the night's schedule on 4A.
I think the Page game's great. I think the Summit game's great. I love the Brentwood game too. I'm guessing Coach Hester probably begged for that because he needed a gate. But hats off to Coach. I know Coach Crawford had a hard time filling a schedule, as did Centennial. Coach Blade, I mean, I felt sorry for him, but nobody wanted to play him. But hats off to Coach Crawford for playing that. A lot of guys wouldn't have done that. That's the Nolensville has nothing to lose, and hats off to him. I thought that was the right thing to do, and that's exciting. That'll be fun. All
right, one of the biggest jump ups for anybody was Page having to move up to 5A. That is a large jump up for anybody. Anytime you jump up in classifications, you know it's kind of a difficult move for those guys. Were 4A last year, now 5A in the region with Summit. That makes some interesting parity in themselves. Summit and Page has never played each other. Obviously going to have to play. Not only going to have to play, they're going to have to play for something on the table in that region play. Page starts off with Fairview in the Battle of 840, obviously, and then goes plays Nolensville. Franklin County, Ravenwood on schedule for Page, which is very interesting for those guys. Antioch, I'm not sure they've ever had to play Antioch before. At Summit, Lincoln County, they have to go. Sparta's going to have to travel here from White County. They have to go to White County, Shelbyville, and Columbia. The region games: Columbia, Shelbyville, White County, Lincoln, Summit, and Franklin County. Right there, can Page get in those top 4 games going into the Celsius playoffs?
I think so. In some ways, and I think this might be not every year, but if you look at the last 2 years, this might be an easier region than they were in, behind Marshall County and Spring Hill, what they were doing. So I like this. And these are good community pages, this is going to be a good schedule for them. I like it.
Well, yeah, the WCS game for sure. The Page Ravenwood, lots of intrigue. Page Nolensville, tons of intrigue. Right. Battle of 840, don't even have to sell it, sells itself. Summit, Old Sparty, Page playing each other with that'll be a little bit of chippiness going on there. Right. Man, that's going to be awesome. Best of luck to those guys as well. Page obviously finished the season this year at 7-4, got themselves into the playoffs and won a game. All right, let's look at Old Sparty. Old Sparty finishes a school best record, 7-4. What are they going to have to do to top that, Tate? Looking right here, going to open up with the Battle of Spring Hill like they play every year. It'll be at Spring Hill this year. To turn around, look at what week 2 brings.
Yeah.
Border battle.
versus Independence at home, at White County, at Nolensville, Page, Columbia, Franklin County, Shelbyville, Centennial, Lincoln County.
Nice schedule, tough schedule. They got to get to 8, right?
Got to get to 8.
I can do that.
Got to get to 8. 2 losses, finish 8-2.
Or finish 7-3 and win one in the playoffs.
I'm fixing to, yes. I'm fixing to give it to you, though. Here comes my lock. Are you ready?
I can't
Are you
wait.
ready?
I hope Creed's writing all these locks
Are
now.
you ready? This is a surefire lock right here. Creed number 1. Old Sparty will win the first round of playoffs.
No, you said they were going to Cookeville or Clarksville in year 2.
I didn't say that. I said Nolensville.
That's Old Sparty. That's
Come on,
right. Yeah,
stay
you're
with
right.
me.
Old Sparty.
Old Sparty's going to win their first ever playoff game in 2017. That's a stone cold lead pipe lock.
I like
Old
that.
Sparty. Now, here's one of those way out there black horse picks. Cookeville, Clarksville, you better get ready.
Summit?
Because when the Summit squad invades, if it goes to Clarksville, Johnny's will never be the same. Chili cheeseburger fries and a sweet tea for less than $6 at Johnny's, and the Summit squad will go in there.
It will be awesome.
And if it's Cookeville, it'll be Spankies.
It'll be Spankies up there. So, Old Sparty, putting you on notice right now. Coach Coleman, he's gonna love this. Week 1,
Yeah, he's
or excuse
really
me,
gonna
playoff
appreciate
round
this.
1, automatic pick. You can take it, Old Sparty, to the bank. 6A, our Big Six guys, man. Brentwood, Centennial, Franklin, Indy, Ravenwood. Quite possibly the toughest region, not only in 6A, but quite possibly all of TWA.
Yeah, without a doubt. It used to be Rutherford County was in 6A. This is the toughest 6A now, no doubt about it.
You got 6 teams: Centennial, Independence, Brentwood, Ravenwood, Franklin, and Dixon County. 4 slots, Tate. 4 slots. I wouldn't put you on the spot right here and ask you which 4 you think are going to get in. That's putting you a little bit on the spot. Dixon County, bless their hearts, Coach Randy Murphy. You know he's sitting there thinking, I appreciate you guys putting me in this group.
There's only one thing Dixon County likes about this. Good gates. That's the only thing they like about it.
You're probably right.
All these teams travel well and buy tickets.
I do want to look at some non-conference schedules right here. Let's look at Independence. Unfortunately, Independence lost the state championship game. Oakland loses the state championship game. Week 1, Independence, Oakland, battle of the reigning 5A and 6A state runner-ups. Has a very intriguing storyline there. They also have to play Summit. Obviously, we talked about that. Hillsboro, CPA, Coach Blade loading up his schedule. He still has a game shy in his non-conference schedule. Can't hardly pick up anybody to play him. Who wants to play him?
Right.
Centennial has to play Hendersonville Summit. Right now, they still have to pick up a few games. Of course, we talked about Ravenwood and Franklin's games, their non-conference game. So right now, Franklin keeps the Riverdale, McGavick, a few of those guys right there. They're picking up Oakland as well, October 6th. And picked up Spring Hill. That's an intriguing matchup as well. 4 or 6 right now, if you had to pick it. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Independence. With what they're returning, have to have a new quarterback. Will Independence be in the mix, Cookeville, Clarksville time?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Don't know if they will, but they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Oh, there's no doubt in the playoffs.
They're probably going to make a run. And, yeah, I mean, he's going to you can bank on this. He's going to figure that quarterback thing out now. He's going to have a quarterback. I mean, that's what he does. You already know you got 2 wide receivers, right? And you got a running back, and they're going to have some other guys too. So, yeah, this thing's not over. Do they get there? I don't know, because that's so hard to do. And you're in 6A football and the draws and things like that. You look at Summit; they have the greatest year they've had. And had they not got Cane Ridge in the first round, you know, who knows? They might win. And heck, they were up at halftime. You know. So, anyways, yes. They're in the mix. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but he'll be fine come the end of the season next year.
Without breaking down, and I don't want to shortchange any of our Big Six schools because I really don't know without looking. I think right now, just on paper, just because of the fact we've discussed this, I discussed this with Ron this weekend at the state championship. I think Brentwood right now is sitting in a very, very good seat. Both quarterbacks coming back. A lot of those kids returning. LaBreche is one of the few that's going to be leaving. But I really think right now Brentwood looks really, really good and poised to make a deep run. Can't tell about Franklin right now until we literally break down the rosters and look at all the pieces as well as Ravenwood and Centennial. But it's going to be fun. WCS Jamboree at Nolensville Friday, August 11th. First time ever. We're going to have all teams there playing each other +1. Right now we'll let you know who that +1 is later on time when we have them. We're going to do a live draft of who plays who in the Jamboree. East-West All-Star games. Landon Guidry, Eli Katina, Caden Williams will be in that game. Best of luck to those guys in senior. I can't wait to watch Landon Guidry in the SEC.
Next Friday. It's this Friday, 7 o'clock at Tennessee Tech.
Okay. Thank you for joining us for WCS Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.